Not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. They feel a little rigid, a little inflexible. So instead, I've got 12 New Year's refreshes, and they don't even have to be just for the new year. They can be anytime through 2024 or beyond. You can do one or a couple or all of them, and you can spend as little or as long as you feel like you need to truly incorporate them as that lasting, sustainable behavior change.
Yay Networks.
A quick note before we dive into today's podcast. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to subscribe to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, wherever you download your podcast. It would also be incredible if you take a minute to rate and review this podcast. Those things do matter and they really help us.
I'm Molly Kimball. Welcome to Fueled, a wellness and nutrition podcast. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition journalist with a passion to help people live their strongest, healthiest life possible. In my weekly TV segments and columns, there's a limited amount of time and space to cover everything, but there's so much more to share. This podcast is my opportunity to dive deeper into the topics you want to know about.
We're talking about behavior changes, and some people might call it resolutions, New Year's resolutions. I'm not a big fan of the word resolution. We'll talk a little bit about that, but think about this as like your 2024 refresh or rethinking or reimagining different aspects of your life. And I did a column. I'm so excited, y'all. I'm actually writing a monthly column for Avenue magazine. It is a publication, a beautiful publication in New Orleans. And the column that is running this month or coming up in January is essentially like 12 habit shifts to prepare us to kind of think through and not do like all at once necessarily as the new year's upon us, but looking at these, thinking through these, which make most sense for us. And we can really look at how can we space these throughout the year at a timing, at a pace that works for us. It might be one or two of these, it might be all of them, but the fact that we chose 12 does give you that full month to focus on each of these behavior changes if you choose to do all of these. So with me as one of my favorite people on the planet, I'm going to rope him in anytime I can do a podcast or any project with Ben McLauchlin. So welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Molly. And y'all, I'm glad to be back. And I was telling Molly when she approached me, I was like, I thought maybe we haven't done one. It's been a while. Because I've gotten country on country. I'm spending more time in Alabama. I normally live in Texas.
Did you think that was why?
I felt like the last podcast, I felt like you probably got some feedback where like I need a translator for him.
Is there subtitles for podcasts?
We need some subtitles. I listened to it and I was like, "Meow, meow, 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 meow." And I was like, good Lord, I used to enunciate a little better.
No, not the case at all. And so some of y'all may know Ben from years and years and years. Every month or so, Ben joined me on WGNO doing recipes, better for you recipes that were naturally gluten-free, low carb, all kinds of stuff. So Ben is one of our top go-to for baking ideas. Ben contributed to our Eat Fit cookbook, contributed another recipe to our revised version of the Eat Fit cookbook that's coming out this year. So from a baking perspective, y'all have heard and learned a lot from Ben. If you even I'll put some of the links in our show notes of some of our favorites, but there's so much that we have that Ben has created that has been like super wellness focused. Ben's also joined me for like gift ideas because you're super creative in gifts. But as this podcast is airing, it's just past Christmas. And so we're not talking about gifts. The reason I reached out to Ben for this is not for his baking talents and his creativity. And Ben can do a party or just so thoughtful and creative and mindful and gift giving. Not for that either though. But Ben, you're also you're incredibly self-aware and you're very much aware of your communications with the people around you, your interactions with people. You're constantly looking for ways to improve you and in the space around you. And so I thought, who better to have this conversation about 12 different things that we might consider for the year coming up to kind of refresh and rethink ourselves.
No, yeah, I'm totally with you. And, I think a trendy concept right now is mindful anything.
Right.
And I know we've talked about mindful drinking, mindful eating, being intuitive,
Right.
listening to yourself, your needs, what you want. Um, and so, I always believe in my life theory or mantra of constant improvement, whether that be work, professionally, personally. That is a mindset I feel like I'm always in, which I probably may need some moderation on that, Molly, where I'm also just present and being still.
And not always dissecting like what's the next way to improve this
Yes, like
aspect of
how can
something.
I get better, Ben?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Because you're that way for yourself personally, which I have so much respect for that because I think so many times it's easy to just say, that's how I was born. That's how I'm wired. But and to some degree, like you'll accept some of those things, but you also really are proactive in saying, that doesn't have to just be just because that's either how you grew up or what things always have been, but you don't just accept it as status quo. You look at how can we improve upon this. And then it's also I see you really and we're talking less about what I'm about to say is less of it, but a lot about communications and how your those relationships around you. And I know that you work a lot on that too. And so that might be where maybe that is part of like something that you do dial back some because I can imagine like maybe there's sometimes that instead of just letting that conversation go, maybe you're like I'm thinking about just relationships where someone may say, Ben, just be.
Yes.
You know?
No, that was even one of my, we have a list. Molly does a wonderful job of prepping for these podcasts. And I really appreciate that because it helps guide me with where she is in her headspace. But even for me, one thing that's not in the 12 habits, maybe we have a 13, is, is just being still
Yeah.
for 10 minutes. Like take 10 minutes where in the hustle and bustle of life, I like to say, do we want a slow cook or do we want a microwave? Some say, is it a sprint or a marathon? I am a microwave guy, but I have to convince myself some days I need a slow cook.
Right. Right.
Molly? So that was one thing, even what you're saying right now, for me, because I'm always in constant improvement and always looking for ways to hopefully be a better person, just in how I interact in my relationships and in life. But I also need to learn to be still more and to be okay in 10 minutes of just quiet with no activities or anything to do.
Yeah. And it's not easy because we want to feel productive or when we have a lot that we're balancing between family, other obligations, I know you've got a lot of that now. Like there's just it can feel like there's just so much to do. How do I fit it all in? And so
That's right.
we're multitasking, we're doing all this. So when we look at this New Year's refresh that I sort of put it. Ben, I need to try to remember to send you actually a hard copy of the magazine
Yes.
as it prints this coming month. But like I said, it's Avenue publication. Ben and I are going to go a little bit out of order, but it's 12 behavior changes or habit shifts, however you would want to kind of think about it. And the reason we chose that dozen, these are things that can be for some of us it might be a big shift in that habit. For others these might be small for you. It depends on what it is and where you are, but these all in some way are going to look at supporting our physical or our spiritual or our emotional well-being. And so looking at as you hear us talking about these, some of you may go, you know what, I've got that under control. That isn't something I need to do. As we talk about some of these, though, you may say, oh, wow, that seems really uncomfortable, or like, I don't know about that. That might be actually the one to really focus on then, if
Yes.
it's causing you that discomfort. So as we're talking through these, just kind of like maybe note to yourself whether you're just like thinking and listening, or maybe actually like writing it down and committing to it, picking up a copy of the magazine when it's out, because that will actually be the written text version of all the stuff that Ben and I are talking through. But thinking of, okay, am I going to do one of these in 2024? And that's fantastic. If you pick one and that's your focus for the year, if you pick a couple, or you do say, I want to try all of these and I'm going to give them a month at a time. So it's up to you on kind of how you want to do this. Ben, which one of these really stood out to you the most that you want to start with?
It's going to be the obvious one. I feel like it's obvious. I feel like phones.
I knew that was going to be
You've got two in here that touch on phones a
Yeah.
bit. We always consistently hear about screen time at night when you're trying to sleep, and if you have bad sleep patterns, the last thing you need is a lit up screen in your
Right.
face. And I think they call it like and forgive me, this may be my circadian rhythms or whatever
Yeah.
they call them.
Yeah.
That you're messing them up, because I have a tendency to wake up at 12:30, at 3, and then maybe at 6. Now, another one we talk about on here, though, is hydration. I overhydrate, which I think causes me to get up and use the restroom. I'm also getting older. At 12:33 and 6, like that is my, but it messes up my rhythm. But what I do, Molly, to get back to it, is I pick up my phone, and I've got certain shows I've watched before, and I have an earphone in or a headphone, and I listen to it. Within 10 minutes, I'll fall back asleep. But in my head, I'm like, I've activated whatever those neuroses are, and those synapses, maybe not neuroses, maybe I got that too, but the synapses.
The neurons or neuroses, you might be
neurons,
activating those.
It could be any of it. But yeah, I think phones on here, in this day and age, yes.
That's kind of the one that I was leaning towards starting with. And so I'm glad that kind of resonated with you. This is one that I would say, if it feels like it's going to be hard to you, I would ask you to just try it for 3 days. I'd really love it for a week, but if even a week seems too long to commit to, just do it for 3 days. And here's what it is. It is simply sleeping with your phone in another room. It doesn't, or at least not right by your bed. It could be on the other side of the room, but I do prefer it in another room. For me, I put it in our bathroom, which is just like right on the other side of the wall from where I sleep, so I can still hear it. So if someone were calling or needed to reach out, and I do use my phone for the alarm, so I still hear that. But the idea is that when we do wake up, that it's not within arm's reach, because our entire lives are on those phones. And so we can pick it up. We might be looking at the calendar of what's coming up the next day. If we pick it up and we see that there's a message in our alert that comes through, it could be nothing, but then it gets us, that screen is lit up. It gets us to click on it. It gets us to start scrolling. And so when our entire lives are on that, if it's right there in arm's reach, it's too tempting. We may look at it simply to check the time. And then 30 minutes later, 45 minutes later, we found that we're like, oh, for just a quick second, I'm going to open up social. And now we're scrolling in the middle of the night. Like, what is that?
Listen,
we're looking at emails.
TikTok is like a black hole.
A black hole.
You got to be careful.
And email coming through. Like, if we are looking at our phones and for whatever reason, someone is sending something that is, it's going to fill our heads with that, right, as that last thing before we sleep. So putting your phone in another room is going to be tremendous. There's that for me was one of the single most life-changing things. Do you know where I first learned that from? It was Ariana Huffington.
How funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she has a book called The Sleep Revolution, and I got to interview. Did you know that? Did you know that I interviewed her?
I feel like I do know that you interviewed her. Yeah.
It was years ago, and it was like one of those like side-by-side interviews. It was as part, a project with the Times-Picayune that we did a sleep challenge. And, it was like kind of a takeoff of our alcohol free for 40 challenge. And, we have so many people that are like revved up about alcohol free for 40. Ben, I think we had 7 people sign up for the sleep challenge. Nobody.
Molly, I would sign up for the sleep challenge.
No, I mean, it was, I realized things need to be a little bit extreme, I think, for people to like really get, energized about it. So anyway, we didn't have a big turnout on the actual sleep challenge. So that was a one and done. What didn't become an annual sleep challenge. But as part of that, we were basing it on her book, The Sleep Revolution. And I did have the opportunity to interview her. And for me, that was one of the biggest pieces of advice that she had. And it was just game changing. So I would say, try it. It's something that I think we use our phones as a crutch, and it becomes almost like that security. Well, what am I going to do before bed if I don't have the phone there? A really strong piece of advice that I read was, would you wake up early to do what you're doing at night that's keeping you from falling asleep, that you're staying awake to do? So if you're staying up an hour or longer scrolling through TikTok, would you wake up an hour early to look at TikTok? Would you set your alarm an hour earlier to do that?
I would not.
But we do it at night because we're just numbing out, you know?
That's right.
So that's a tremendous one, is sleeping with your phone in the other room. The other one that is phone related, Ben mentioned there's two, is the pickup challenge. Not the kind of pickup challenge that some people might be thinking of.
That's right.
Have you ever looked at your
Although that could be a fun pickup challenge, probably. Maybe that's an area that someone needs to shift their habit and put themselves out there. I'm just kidding.
Would they be, that would be such an awkward conversation someone would have. Have you ever looked at your phone to see how many pickups you have?
You know, and we have talked about this data, and I do love data. Yes, I try not to look at it that much, though,
It's
because I
upsetting.
know I am addicted to my phone. There's no
Yeah.
question. I'm addicted. You know, my significant other have conversations because we play a little role, and we've done this before. We need to put it back into practice. For about 3 months, if we went to dinner or we were eating in any form together, your phones had to be put down and away.
You haven't been doing that lately.
And we broke that practice. We did it for about probably 3 months, and it was wonderful. We go to a restaurant. Our tendency is, you know, we see each other all the time, but our tendency is just to chat a little bit, but we'll look at our phone. We may share something from our phone because that's the world, because we're addicted.
Right.
That's the world we're in. Like, look what I saw on social media. Look at this TikTok. Look at this news story headline. So we put it down, though, and we can converse about those things, but we don't have our phone as a prop at the table or distraction.
Yeah. So the pickup challenge is starting by looking in your settings, and we have in the actual article in the Avenue magazine, we have how to find it. But you can look in your settings, and you can see your screen time, and then you can scroll down and see your pickup data. And so that's how many times have you picked up your phone, and they count. It's not just that you picked it up off the table, it's that you opened it, that you unlocked the screen or whatever. And so
Yes.
for me, you know, I have the iPhone, I think it's the 13 that I have, and it has the face activation to where I can, like, the face ID. I
Yes.
don't have that set. Like, I did not set it because I don't want that anytime I pick up my phone, it can be just as easy that it sees my face and it opens the screen, unlocks the screen. So I have it to where I actually must manually type in the code to unlock it.
Well, that makes sense, and I've never considered that.
It's a
Because the
barrier.
reality is, Molly, if we're picking up our phone and it's using our face to open it, or and I get it, so the passcode makes it not as accessible,
Right.
because you actually have to be thoughtful and mindful.
Right.
Use that language and mindfully put in your code. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. I
So
like that. I wasn't tracking it first because I feel like if anybody's picking up their phone, it's because they are looking at it out of habit or pattern or whatever.
and
That makes
it's so like Pavlovian. You have a few unexpected minutes of downtime. You're waiting in line at, I don't know why the bank came up. That's on my, I have to actually go to the bank today, which how often do we go to the bank? Everything's like electronic now, but I'm going to
I agree.
actually have to go and sit in the line and, like, in the car in the bank line. And that's the type of place where you've got a few minutes downtime. You're waiting in line at the grocery store. You pull out your phone. Why?
Yes.
Like, there's probably not something super urgent. And we're also missing the world around us at that, you
Yes.
know, the interactions with the people around us, or simply watching the fascinating things that can happen just with people, but we miss it because our face is in our phone. And so, looking to see, like, how many times do you pick up your phone on average? Like, if you're looking at your settings.
Well, I'm scared to pick my phone up right now. I'm scared
Okay.
it'll mess it up. But I don't know how to say that, but I will tell you that I pick up my phone at least, my guesstimate is going to be, I probably pick up my phone 40 times an hour.
An hour? I thought you were going to say a day. You think an hour?
No, my phone is I guess it depends on what you do with your phone. Like, you got the social media. I am on so many group texts. Like, even sitting here with you, Molly, right now, I've seen about 15 texts come through in the 15 minutes we've been together of people just bantering back and forth. So there's nonstop conversation and texting coming through. I was even thinking about, like, when you go to the restroom. Like, I always bring my phone out in the restroom, which seems disgusting.
I know, but everybody
Because all
does
you hear
it.
about is fecal matter. I don't know if it's a may, perhaps could. But you hear about how disgusting bathrooms are and that fecal matter is floating in the air.
And you're not
So now it's
alone.
on
Like
your phone.
everyone is bringing it in there. And like, really, like, are we like that? It's so interesting that we aren't alone with our thoughts for long enough to either go to the bathroom or sit in the bank line or the checkout line at the grocery.
Yeah.
We're so trained to have that distraction
Yeah.
of our phones. So I would, I really would love you to pick it up. But if you're guessing 40 times, I thought you were
Do you
going to
think
say,
I can pick it up? I guess everybody can still hear me.
yeah, keep doing it. If we get disconnected, we'll clip back in.
We'll do a little tutorial on the podcast. I'm going to go to my settings. And then where do I go from here?
So you'll go to settings, screen time.
Ooh, I'm embarrassed, Molly.
What's your hours?
12 hours and 5 minutes.
A day?
I'm down 41% from last week.
Ben, it's 12 hours a day?
It says 12 hours and 5 minutes. But now you have to understand, I do a ton of streaming, and it's a daily average. But I do a lot of streaming.
Ben.
Like I go to sleep with some, I'm one of those people, the joke about you listen to murder, whatever the real-time reality murder stuff. I don't know, like Criminal Minds and Cases. I listen to that before I go to bed.
Ben, okay, I don't know
So
that
it's
this
running
whole,
also while
we're
I'm
not going to
asleep.
cover 12 things for 2024 because right now there's so much about what you're doing with your electronics at night for sleep. Okay, number one, you're listening to murder as you're going to sleep. Like I didn't know this. Yo, I know Ben like very, very, very well. Like Ben is like one of those people who we share so much with each other. I feel like there's not a lot that you're going to tell me that's going to surprise me. I didn't know that you're listening to real life murder documentaries before you're going to bed. Ben, I knew that you were listening to things at night, and that's also not good because what we're doing, okay, so let's just go back to sleep. And I think that you know this part, Ben, but like part of our sleep is, our bodies are resting, our healing. We've got the cellular repair, the tissue repair. I'm so distressed right now. I can't even
I'm so sorry. I'm a pure disappointment, everyone.
I'm so like feeling myself. I'm like rubbing my face. I'm rubbing like my eyes. I'm like, okay, where do we start? So we've got our bodies physically repair while we're sleeping, but our brains are using that time that we sleep. Our brains are using that time while we sleep to almost like catalog everything that happened through the day. There's a lot that we're inundated with, and our brains are using that nighttime, that sleep to organize, to make sense of everything that we were stimulated by through the day, everything that we absorbed. It's cataloging it, it's organizing it, it's letting go of the stuff that we deem less relevant. It's making sense of things that maybe we didn't catch on to. A lot of times something may happen through the day. I had it just this on Monday. I woke up and like there was something that resonated that I hadn't caught was not quite right in some communications I'd had earlier. Like that actually was on Friday. And when I woke up Monday, I realized, wait a second, I don't think that was as it seemed. And that was actually correct. But something in my sleep had like processed it because I woke up with this clarity of it. So our sleep is basically, it is dusting out everything. You love polishing the silver. You love cleaning when you're stressed, and your brain is like doing all that while we sleep. So when you're taking murders into that space at night, when it's went to like dust and polish the silver, did you just give me a thumbs up on your phone?
I do like to dust and polish silver.
So your brain is trying to do that at night, and you're like dumping more tarnish on it. And so there's a lot there that I think.
Molly, I feel like I need to say something.
Okay.
To plead Molly. Listen, also, we can touch on a few of these. Another one is just taking some time to breathe.
Okay.
That could be another one of the 12 habits. So Molly right now needs to take some time to breathe, to work through what I've just told her.
What I've shared. But,
But Molly, that's what I want to tell you, though. So my average sleep, though, is 7 hours and 30 minutes a night.
then you're, wait. And then you're on your phone 12 hours a day. So you've got 6 hours of time that you're either not sleeping
But a lot of that is duplicative.
Yes.
Because if I wake up, so for instance, I'm looking at December 19th sleep patterns. Okay. I wear my little Apple Watch. like I said, I love data, so I look
Right.
all the time. So I'm averaging about an hour of REM a night, 38 minutes of deep. I don't understand the difference. In my core, I slept 5 hours and 39 minutes. And then I was awake for 14 minutes across a 7 hour and 50-minute period.
That's great. That's
So
really good.
so even with this, I get more sleep than most people my age. I can sleep 8 hours a night.
Yeah. No,
But
that's
I
really
do wake up
fantastic.
to use the restroom, and it's that problem when I wake up to use the restroom, I don't turn the light on because I think I do overhydrate. And that's also another habit is drinking more water. So I am touching on a few, Molly, as we go.
Yes. Okay. So let's go back to you opened it up so we could see screen time. It was screen time and then scrolling down. What's your pickups?
Oh, my pickups.
Yeah. Scroll below
I got
screen
distracted. We got distracted with the sleep. Okay. But I sleep more than most people around me. I just have a weird way to fall back asleep,
Yeah.
which I put in the Criminal Minds. I've already seen it. And within 2 minutes, I fall back asleep because their voices just drone. Okay, pickups though. Sorry, y'all. I get distracted. I get excited. So I got off my health data. Sorry, I was looking at my sleep app. Okay, so we're going back to screen time now. Pickups. Would I go?
It should be under screen time if you scroll down, I believe.
Okay, I see downtime of app limits. No. Communication limits. So mainly it's just telling me how I can restrict my bad habits.
And you're not seeing pickup data on that.
Let me click into pickups. Oh, well, I'm not as bad as I thought. See, I'm a worst critic. So it's looking like on Sunday, I picked up 138 times.
Can you look
That was
at?
on Sunday.
Yeah.
On Monday, I only did 42.
Wow. Were you driving
Tuesday?
Monday?
I was.
Yeah, he was driving from Dallas to Alabama. So
That's correct.
yeah.
So that was reflecting just my GPS stuff and all that on my road trip. And then yesterday I did 66 pickups.
Okay.
Today I already have 53.
Yeah.
But one thing I was going to tell you, I also keep all my life notes within the Notes app. So
Yeah.
I'm always on my phone going through, like we were just talking, I'm hosting a 50th anniversary for my parents tomorrow. So that's exciting for them, Ben and Bobby. But my notes for the party and everything I'm doing is organized on my phone. So I have to click in there to look at the list of everything.
So I think we'll wrap up the phone part, but I think
Okay, yeah.
that's a really good point that you just brought up. There's a lot that we use our phones for. Y'all just heard. I mean, Ben is tracking all the health data. He's using the different wearables and trackables that he's tracking this data. He's looking at his sleep. He's using it for his notes. He's listening, streaming. Like he's using it purposefully. And he's also scrolling through TikTok and kind of like getting, sucked down that rabbit hole. So the idea of, sleeping with your phone in another room, we got that. And that kind of helps with that nighttime part. But the idea of this pickup challenge to minimize the number of times you simply pick up your phone is to do exactly that. When you're picking up your phone, it's a conscious decision because there's something about your phone that you're using purposefully. So Ben is using it for his Notes app. He's using it for whatever that planning and for his parents' anniversary is. There's a purposeful reason that you're picking it up, not simply I'm in line at the grocery, I have 3 minutes downtime, and instead of just being polite to the cashier, I'm going to look at my phone. Like that's the difference of minimizing our pickups is trying to help us be more mindful when we do pick it up. Because there's so much good stuff that's in our phones too. So it's being mindful about that. Okay. So
Molly, I just turned off my Face ID.
Okay. Oh,
And
look at you.
it took less than a second.
Yeah.
So I turned it off, and now I can be thoughtful when I'm picking up my phone or mindful.
I think that's amazing. And then it is one last thing. This truly is the last thing we'll say about phones, y'all. I mentioned I took my Face ID off. Ben took his off of there. Now I still have it for some of the things like inside, like, I don't know, when I go to like McLauchlin or the electronic medical records, like that recognizes me on Face ID, which is super convenient. But to actually just open my phone, I still have to type in that password. Brad's firm required this week that they changed their access code to their phone. He can use his for his Face ID, his own face. But if he's going to actually manually unlock his phone, 15 digits. I mean, my gosh.
That's bonkers.
Bonkers. Okay. So
You can only, I think, remember 7.
I mean, my
That's why.
gosh.
That's why before we had area codes, phone numbers were 7
Right.
digits.
That's crazy. Yes. So,
Okay.
so a couple of things that we'll kind of lead into next. Ben mentioned one of these. So we talked two, sleeping with your phone in another room and then pickup challenge. These are things that each of those, if you focus on those for a month, you're going to really create that new habit with both of those. The next we'll talk about is breathing with purpose. And that might seem like an entire month spent on focusing on your breathing, but looking at a breathing technique and using it at different times, it can be useful. So one would be one would be like Ben was telling me to do just a minute ago when I was like all worked up that he was listening to like murders as he's falling asleep. Ben's like, Molly, let's go to your focused breathing. But as Ben does get up in the night and is going back to sleep, maybe if his phone is in the other room or he's trying to like minimize his pickups, he does a breathing technique and uses that focused breathing to help him come back to sleep. So there's a lot of different strategies. The one that I covered in the magazine article for the Avenue is 4-7-8. So breathing in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 7, and then exhaling for a count of 8. It helps us to reduce our heart rate almost instantly. It can help us to reduce blood pressure. It helps us with that feeling of anxiety at night, at that time, if Ben's up in the night and trying to go back to sleep. It helps to quiet that noise in our head. I don't think that there's something that's so super special about the numbers 4 and 7 and 8. But the fact that they're different makes you focus a little bit on that because you're counting for 4, then 08 at 7, now it's 8 for the exhale. And that's also helping us to like clear the other stuff out of our head. If you just, my dad always says, take 3 deep breaths. And as a kid, that used to just drive me nuts because you'd be like all worked up as a kid. Oh, take 3 deep breaths. And it just felt so, but also this being a little bit more specific is making us, again, kind of turn down the volume of whatever's that noise around us. So the focused breathing, I really like it at times when we're presented with something stressful and we have a heated reaction, as you just heard me. If we are trying to go to sleep and we're trying to dial ourselves back, Ben, I use that a lot. Like if I'm about to give a presentation and sometimes it feels like nerves are about to get the best of me.
Yes.
I do that 4-7-8 right then, so it's really just kind of when we're talking about a month may seem like a long time to focus on our breathing, but using it and identifying the times that it can be helpful and give us a benefit that maybe it prevents us from doing something else that's maybe not such a healthy habit.
Yeah. And I found it's helpful, even if you think you're going to have a tough conversation.
You're right.
Like before you go into that room or even in the middle of a conversation, like, we're talking a few seconds here to just take a pause. And we know silence is deafening. And when you're in the middle of maybe a heated discussion or a disagreement, but take those 15 minutes or what are we doing? 19 here. Take
Seconds.
those 19 seconds, not minutes, everybody, but the 19 seconds. And it gives you a minute just to pause, regroup. And like Molly, you just led us through the practice and I 100% went through it with you. And I did my breathing and I just felt like I almost forgot we were on this podcast.
It's so
I
relaxing.
Went to a happy, peaceful spot where I'm like, oh yeah, we're still here.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. It brings everything down, that heart rate, the blood pressure. It centers our focus. It helps to, it's not going to cure anxiety, but can it immediately help us to manage that sensation? For so many of us, yes. So I think focused breathing is one that we have. If you're going to put a full month dedicated to this, I don't think it's too much. And it's almost like Ben said, it's reminding ourselves that it's a very useful tool that's so fast, it's free, it's like no commitment. I mean, there's like nothing to it, but how often do we not do it? The last thing I'll say on that is a lot of times I find myself doing the opposite. If I feel a little anxious or if there's something going on, I find I hold my breath.
Yes. I can hear that. I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah. And you don't even realize it. And I'll realize, how long have I not been breathing? So it just helps us to remember all that stuff. The other, so that's number 3. Number 4, and we're going out of order here. We're kind of jumping around if you were to actually have our article in front of you. But the next one that I think goes to still talking about kind of that transition at night and bedtime is reading a real book, like with real pages.
Yeah. Yes. I just went to this is kind of funny. Excuse me. I went to my optometrist last week. Now, I have a little stigmatism. So I wear glasses to drive at night and to see movies on the screen. Not for reading. But it was an interesting conversation because she point blank said, it's a new optometrist. She said, how do you read? And I was like, I don't know what that means. And she goes, well, do you only read on screens or you actually read books? And I am an old school book buyer. I still like to highlight, I dog ear, I scribble in books. So I'm still an old school book buyer. But it was an interesting conversation in this day and age and what we're talking about right now, Molly.
Right, right. And that book with pages, what's so interesting about that, number 1, you don't have that light from the screen. Like Ben was saying earlier, that light from the screen is so stimulating. And at night, when we're having that artificial light as we're trying to go to sleep, now, obviously you can read anytime through the day. But I think for a lot of people, reading at night is sort of that might be the one time of the day that you have the most downtime. It can also be that replacer. Like, okay, you're going to put your phone in the other room. You may feel like completely at a loss of what do I do with myself. And at that moment, like that's where something like that real book with pages comes in. It can help us to unwind. We also, research is showing us that we can remember what we read better when it's from real pages. We're seeing it. We can touch the word with our hands. Like Ben was saying, he's highlighting or you're underlining. And so not putting a lot of pressure on it. If you haven't actually read a real book with real pages in a while, don't put pressure that like, oh, you're going to read a book a month. Sometimes when people like their reading list is a really aggressive reading list that they want to do, just get one book. And, several years ago, it was probably going back to Ariana Huffington. She has a wonderful book called Thrive that I adore. And I read Thrive. I want to say it came out in like 2014. And I bought it in 2014 and it sat on my nightstand for maybe a year. And I would read a page here and there. But it was probably not until a full year later that I really got into it because I had not been in the habit of reading actual real books. And so, I still kept it there with the intent. And over time, I kind of, okay, let me put the phone in the other room. Now I've got more space that I'll read at night and stuff. So real book with pages, that focused breathing, those would be numbers 3 and 4 that we would look at. I think
Molly, I used to, and I'm sorry to interrupt. So I would read every night to go to sleep growing up. And my undergraduate degree is in English literature because reading's what I do. Do you know why I read so much growing up?
No, I don't.
Okay, great. Well, I know this is shocking. I'm a little hyperactive. I was hyperactive as a child. My mom says that one night they woke up, I was standing over the stove. Cooking came easily even at 5 years old. I was standing over the stove and I had every eye or burner on the stove on and I was hovering my hands over them. So from that point on, my parents put a lock on the outside of my bedroom door. And they both worked full time. I did not sleep. I was not allowed to take naps in kindergarten or school because if I took a nap, I did not sleep at all that night. But they just locked me in with books.
Wow.
And I would stay up all night long and read.
Wow.
Until I finally fell asleep.
Wow. No, that's, and you weren't.
I know this isn't really on topic, but it is about books.
No.
But I just thought you'd find that story interesting.
Because I was thinking, I was like, because you're an only child. No, and you're not. So that wasn't it. I, as a kid, read so much that I wasn't really a bad kid in almost any way. And I really just followed the rules, but I would sneak a flashlight into my room and keep it under the bed because I would read. And that was like, I would, my parents would
Molly,
fuss at me.
I'm calling the police.
I know.
You are in trouble, girl.
I know you have to go in just a few minutes. So I'm gonna breeze through for our listeners for some of the other things we talk about is like hydrating effectively, trading out the ultra processed foods, mindful drinking, which we've talked a lot We actually, in just the next podcast that we'll be doing, is actually about alcohol free for 40. So we'll be addressing mindful drinking then, prioritizing movement or flexibility. I
Yes.
don't want us to spend a lot of time on those, Ben, because we only have just a few minutes, but I did want to just mention those for our listeners there. There
I'm
are,
hoping you're going to go where I want to go next.
okay, there's
Just
two that I'm
finish
going
this
to
up.
say real quick
Come on.
before. Immersing in nature. If someone's
Yes.
not getting outside, y'all, please, that would be one that I would say pick a month, pick the most beautiful month of the year that's wherever you're living. And for that month, focus on every day getting outside for at least 15, 20 minutes. Even if you're working in the yard, even if you're just by a window, there's so much that can, for me, it brings me, it's so centering. It brings that peace, that clarity. There's such a release for me if I'm indoors. As soon as I step outside, it's a whole different sensation for me. So, I mean, so much of our life we live outside on our porch, and it's just, I love that. The other is a compliment challenge. And this,
Yes. This is my favorite.
is it your favorite?
I just feel like in the world we're in right now, like even myself, I notice that I can say, they'll say, how was this moment, this event, your time? I will say positive things about it, but I will find myself mentally going towards a but. I had a great time, but they didn't have this. I didn't have a great time, but it's just, and I'm like, what? Where's this critical? Why do I need to add the but?
Yeah.
And I'm finding like in a world where I feel like we do have some angst. We've come out of the pandemic. We still have some stuff going on. We've got some global politics and local politics, the divisiveness we all see in the headlines without getting into all of that, and then, we won't go into right or wrong. But the point is that it's just, I have to practice. I can only control my attitude of gratitude, to use that cliche. So how can I bring that into the world to bring that positive and good energy with my interactions? Because I can be a road rage driver too, even behind the wheel. How can I give compliments behind the wheel instead of the compliments we're
Right.
kind of used to?
Right.
If we want to, and I'm putting quotes, those compliments. So this is the one I was hoping we would end on.
Okay,
Because I feel
good.
like, especially in the season going into a new year, we need more joy. We need more, um, affirmations out there. I just feel like the world needs this. So I feel like it's something I daily have to check myself and work on.
So on yours, it's, as you say, a positive about something, almost giving yourself that little reminder to stop it at that, leave it at that. We
Yes.
don't have to take it to the but, this also.
Yeah.
And what I find is that so many times we think something good about someone, or we may have a positive experience, but how often do we tell that person about that? Or I may tell you
Yeah.
that I met somebody, and they were just so lovely, they were so helpful, they were all of these great things. But then do you say, oh, well, that's great? Do you then go tell that person, hey, Molly had such glowing things to say about you? A lot of times we may hear that positive, and we're not intending to just sit on it, but we just hold it, and we don't always pass along to that person who it
Yeah.
could mean the most
They
to.
have no idea. They
Yeah.
have no idea. And even if I think about, like, even when we leave like reviews, if we do that, a lot of times, even working with servers in the service industry, a lot of times I feel like, at least within my space that I've seen, so I don't want to generalize the whole population, human population, but I just find that we have a tendency to want to complain first about something rather than tell the server what a great job they're doing.
Right. Right.
It's easy to be like, this needs more salt, or my steak's overcooked, or whatever. But looking for opportunities to say thank you so much for what you just did for me.
Right. Right. And
That's what
how
I've got to practice.
I completely agree. And I think about people who have such a beautiful spirit, and they bring so much joy to me. It's so easy to tell someone else about that person than maybe to tell that person. I got a Christmas card from somebody that works on the same team that I work on, and it's not my immediate team of or like, it's not our Eat Fit or our nutrition team, but it's someone else that kind of works next to me in our same division of Oshner. And he wrote a card for, there's about maybe maybe about 8 of us who report up to the same VP. And so that's sort of the team that he works on with us. He wrote each of us a card, and it was filled with words, and it was personalized for each of us. I came home and I said, Brad, look at this. It was of all the gifts I got, and especially like it was one of the most meaningful, because what he wrote was sharing how he felt about each of us in a very personal way. And it was so impactful, and how much, especially in a work setting, we don't always say. He in the things that he shared with me were things that were he likes my storytelling, which of course I was like, ooh, I love that. Brad's laughing because Brad says sometimes my stories get a little too long, or they have too many different like side arms of them. But then he also, even noting that, I take the time to ask about him personally and care about the different things that he's been going through on a, he'd recently, had some different transitions in his life. And so I thought, wow, it was so meaningful. And I know that it took him a good bit of time to handwrite each of these for all of us, but it was something that was just so impactful. So the one that we'll leave it on for our notes to think about for our 2024 rethinking, refreshing, reimagining. Don't love the resolution. We don't need a new year, new Ben. We don't need a new Ben. We just want to have a.
Molly, thank you for saying that.
We don't. We love Ben. So new year, new you, and all this. I don't think that we need that. We don't also need hard and fast rules. That resolution is like it's inflexible. It's a lot of times it's giving something up. So all of these things that we're talking about are adding in new things, thinking about ways to bring more positivity. Or if we are making that transition, we're losing the phone off of our nightstand, what are we replacing it with? So thinking of how do we refresh, rethink, reimagine. We've got a dozen of these that we're looking at. Ben and I covered some of our favorites. We got in the weeds on a little bit of them, but I think it's great. I think it's clearly something that all of us struggle with. And then leaving it as the compliments. And I hope that I give you the compliments that you know how much you mean to me, and that the joy that you bring to me, and that I can share anything with you. And that you bring so much joy and humor, and then also just someone that I can just like trust and be so open with. So
now, Molly, would you feel like your love language is words of affirmation? Because I'll tell you, Molly is a glass is half full kind of gal. Like she is like, if there's a problem, of course she's normal, she's human, she through the negative emotions, but she will look at it, if at least publicly, she will express it as, okay, silver lining, this is what we can do, and this is the direction we're going to go in. But I feel like you always approach things with a very positive approach. Rather than being down in the dumps and saying how the life is so hard and blah, blah, blah. That's not your approach to life. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess I'm giving you my compliment too.
Well, thank you.
I just think, yes, you're just so the viewers know, just Molly is this really positive array of sunshine. Again, a little cliche, running around the world, making pottery with angel wings and helping people live better lives and educating us. But that's Molly's like personality. Like if there's any problem, even in just her private life, like even reeling floors, she will find the positive spin on it, which is very appreciative.
The humor, like you have shared with me some things recently.
Or the humor, you are laughing. Yeah, the humor.
There's things that Ben will share, and especially when we go through things with family and or aging parents or family, and there's things that are just, and I went through it with my mom, and there's things that are just, they're devastating, they're hard, they're painful. But Ben, some of these things, I think it was you and I were talking like last week, and you were sharing with me a story, and it was like, I can't even remember exactly what it was, and I was like screaming with laughter. And it wasn't really funny, but it also was, because there's elements of all these things that if you even in those times, I think about like with my mom that were so dark and painful, I still like what got me through was finding the positives. What are the things that you can weave together? You have to look hard for them, but you could at least weave together some elements of hope, or people that were coming into our lives that were these positive influences and helping to provide this guidance or this healing. And if you can like find them and start to weave them together, then it kind of lets you see that way. And then if nothing else, you're in the middle of it, and it can be, again, dark and painful, but there can also be elements that you can still find the humor in, you know? So yeah,
That's right.
going back to your question about love languages, you're very much into the conversation and idea of love languages. So on our next walk and talk, let's talk through that, because I don't know my love language. I would
Let's do
imagine
that.
it might be that.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful. Molly, this has been fun. Thank you for having me.
so much fun. So y'all, I'll link to some of our favorite things with Ben that we've done in the past. Just if you want to hear just like more, either see or watch more silliness, I'll try to find some of ours that maybe were like, I don't know. There's somewhere we may have the giggles, or just maybe some of our favorite Ben recipes or Ben creative ideas and baking tips and stuff like that. So I'm going to link to those. I'll also link to the Avenue magazine so that y'all can see where to find it or where to get a subscription. And then if you want to pick up a copy of it, I would love it, because it's going to kind of be your written guide that really has these 12 ones that Ben and I started to cover a lot of them, hit the high spots on some others. So thank you so much, Ben.
Wonderful. Thank you, Molly.
All right. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, love you. Bye, y'all.
So grateful to Ben for carving out time to just have fun with me in this episode. It's always more fun to do this, you know, a topic like this with someone than just doing it solo. And any excuse I can have to wrangle Ben into doing a podcast with me, if I think that topic is up his alley, I'm going to take it. So I truly enjoyed my time with Ben. I hope you did too. I'll include the links that we talked about in the show notes of this episode. Always let me know what you think. I am registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. If you like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, please head over to mollykimball.com, and you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next time for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life.